it's the least we can do. Well, the least they could do changed my life so profoundly that 10 years later, I'm starting this organization.
Hi, Courtney.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Welcome to Owning Your Legacy, and I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you so much. So I'd love you to just start with your amazing story and how you started Culinary Care.
Well, I guess my story starts back in 2006. My dad was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And I was a junior in high school at the time, and we were told he would have anywhere from 5 months to 5 years to live. And about 7 months later, he ended up passing away. So I was applying for colleges, doing my ACTs, trying to get all that figured out.
The time when you would really like your father's advice, I'm sure.
Yes, definitely. And luckily I had gotten it ahead of time, and he definitely wanted me to embrace just not working too hard and having a good time at college, because he was a lawyer and saw the other side of it. And so
that's great advice.
That was his sort of advice that I got.
And then you went to
before.
Arizona, so I imagine you had some fun there.
Yes, just a little. But yeah, then I went to Arizona and for college and had 4 years there to really just I just kind of went from no real grieving process. It was just he passed. I had ACTs, study for, finish my senior year, get into college, go to college, and just kind of deep dive in there. And so after I graduated college and was looking for a job and interning and just thought, okay, this is really, I feel like I'm in a place where I can start to kind of figure out what I want to do and how I want to, really sort of grieve and think about him and make sure that he's still just a part of my life. And so I was looking to volunteer with different organizations and was going to all these different orientations. And what my mind kept going back to was the meals that friends and neighbors brought us daily. And for 7 months being in and out of the hospital, like our whole lives were turned upside down. And, one thing that I've learned from myself, but also just with so many of the patients that we serve now and their families, life does not stop for cancer. It is like you are still trying to keep up with like your already really busy life. And now you're just integrating, spending every other moment that you've got in the day in chemo or just, at my dad's bedside and taking him to treatments and rehabs, and just really everything is just a really overwhelming experience. And so the food.
And you said listening to researching you, I know you mentioned that he really enjoyed food.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, he was not the type of person that would just grab a protein bar or just like something to eat. He did not really eat for survival. It was really eating for enjoyment. And so I think that was really his moment every meal was his moment to like sit down, de-stress. And those were the times that we really got to connect the most with my dad, was just over a meal. And so it was finding new restaurants that we could go try, or just being at home and playing games over the dinner table, or, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That's kind of how what he instilled in me was we should wake up looking forward to breakfast. We should eat breakfast and look forward to lunch, and then we can look forward to dinner. And that's, I think, what really got him through like a really stressful day and stressful, life can get stressful. So I think those were really his moments to look forward to.
And I think that's such a great gift and lesson that he gave you, because I'm a believer in that too of, I'm not even going to pretend that we have dinner at a dinner table every night at my house, but my kids know that like it is like when there's not sports and, that kind of stuff gets in the way. But I love that time of day too. It's the only time of day that we all can get together for even half an hour. Yeah. I'm a believer in like placemats too. Like you got to make it like a moment. You can't just like, I think you said something like, don't stand and eat. Like one of my kids does. And I'm like, do not, it's like a pet peeve. Sit and eat. But I love that that's kind of a foundational aspect of culinary care. Yeah. That it's the community around the table that happens, and how important that is when someone's going through that. So
yeah, I think we try to make it an experience, like the meal, and there's the hospitality in it, and that is what we love about going and dining out to eat and feeling taken care of and supported, and just like you can just have this like, I can breathe for this second. So
yes,
but
so kind of back to your story. Sorry, I derailed us a little bit there, but so you graduated, and then And you started a different job though, right out of school, right? Like you were working
Yeah.
and trying to do
Culinary-
like charity and non-for-profit on the side.
Yeah, I was had sort of thought of the idea for culinary care, just after realizing the meals were really just what resonated with me so much. And then I started exploring, how can I volunteer? How can I bring other people food? Even if it's just me picking up something from a restaurant, I just want to show them that I'm here and I can, help them in any way. And there was just no resources that I could go that I could find someone that might need that type of support. And so that was really starting to my mind started spinning on, okay, well, what happens if you don't have this community support? What happens if you don't have friends and family at your doorstep every month? And I've learned so much of what that experience looks like for families. But that was really kind of what got it started, was, okay, if this was so meaningful to me, maybe it can be meaningful to somebody else. And that was really the impetus behind Culinary Care. I fortunately had a very entrepreneurial boyfriend and now husband that was like, I will support you and like, we'll figure this out together. And I've started businesses. And so we know some of the next steps that we needed to take, and, started putting a business plan together of what it would look like. And
you were 23 at the time?
So yeah,
That's pretty
22, 23.
Courageous and young.
Yeah. I was working full time though. And so that was, something we weren't really 100% sure where it was going to go. And so we did want to make something where this is something that I could do as a passion project in my free time. And so I was working full time doing marketing for a national wedding photography company.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And I read, I think I heard that you told your boss about your passion. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. In my interview applying for the job, they asked, what do you like to do? And just what are your passions outside of work? And so I said, I've actually got a charity that I'm starting. And so I actually might need my lunch break to do this work. And, I got hired, so I guess they agreed.
Yeah.
They let me do it. And they were entrepreneurial as well. They had started their company. And so they kind of knew a little bit of what I was, going into, and were definitely supportive of me being able to take
How
my
were the
lunch
other
break and
people in
go
the
out.
office to you when you'd go out on your lunch break and deliver food? Were they supportive, or were they like, yeah?
They would come with.
That's
and it
good.
was a photography company. So I'm like, I need a photographer. Come with, like, take photos, help out. So yeah, we actually recruited. A lot of the office was helping me call patients, manage schedules. And when they could, we would just get like our extended lunch break and go out, drop off food. And then we knew that we could come back and eat our lunch too. So that was important. So
That's really
yeah.
cool. So when did you dive in and go all in Culinary Care?
In 2015, so I think it was about 2.5 years after I had actually started the organization. And it just kind of hit an inflection point of, we had raised some money and we had so many families that were requesting meals at that point that it just made sense. Like, someone needs to be doing this and someone needs to be serving these families. And, my family was helping out a lot when I couldn't deliver meals, but it got to the point where it just made sense. Somebody needed to be doing it full time. And so I jumped in, was like full-time fundraiser, full-time delivery driver, full-time patient coordinator. So I've done it all.
That's great.
Yeah, it was very, very boots on the ground.
And then when did you start expanding? So I'm sure you got to a point where you're like, I can't do it all anymore.
Yeah, I think so I came on in 2015. I think we hired our first like part-time driver. So her role was really just helping deliver meals. And so that way I could take a meeting and with a potential donor or something, it didn't have to be like, oh my gosh, wait, a volunteer's not available. I have to cancel and move on. So we hired her in 2016. And then we got a grant from Tyson Foods in, I believe, at the end of 2016. So we could hire sort of like the first other full-time person in 2017.
Talk a little more about that. That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was really cool that Tyson does that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a really incredible grant opportunity. And we had been building the relationship with them, and, their CSR team was just really incredible about, understanding where we were at as an organization. The missions were so aligned. We're providing these meals, and meals matter. And that was, they had this whole initiative called Meals That Matter Hero. And so we had been already working with their CSR department. I think, that's where my marketing and sort of PR background came in. I was a little little fearless of just saying, hi, I'm Courtney with Culinary Care. Here's what we're doing. Do you see any sort of potential for partnership? And it just got the conversation started. And then their CSR team ended up nominating me for the Meals That Matter Hero. And I remember getting the email being like, is there anything that you need? And just being like, oh my gosh, there are so many things. How do we pick one?
Where do I start?
We thought a new team member was really what we needed to keep growing and going. So
it's a beautiful video on your website of you reading the card from Tyson, and you got a great website. There's a lot of good videos out there.
It. Yeah, there's a lot of videos on there.
There's some good ones.
Yeah.
So Courtney, can you tell us about Culinary Care and exactly what happens on a day-to-day basis?
So Culinary Care, our mission overall is to nourish cancer recoveries. And the way that we see that, and as our name sort of suggests, is we have two sides. One is the culinary and one is the care. And when we were starting Culinary Care, I was working full time. And so there was no bandwidth for me to cook and prepare meals. And so one of the first questions we had to answer was, where are we going to get meals from? And we decided we were going to partner with local restaurants. We knew that, restaurants would typically give out friends and family meals and things like that. And so maybe they would be willing to donate meals to our organization that we could pick up and deliver to families that needed it. And so that's really how we got started. When we started reaching out to local restaurants, Maggiano's was actually the first one to jump on board. And it was just an instantaneous, like, I know exactly what this can mean to people. And unfortunately, cancer impacts, I think, almost every single one of our restaurant partners in some way. And so they know exactly what we're trying to do. And I mean, hospitality is in their blood. So, jumping in and making sure that people can have that was really, really incredible. So we have meals donated from local restaurants. That's changed a little bit through the pandemic, but our team picks everything up and we deliver it to cancer treatment centers. So we learned early on in Culinary Care, we were just delivering meals everywhere. And one of our families ended up letting us know that they actually do not get any meal services during outpatient care. And so her and her son were there all day for his chemo treatment and they were not eating. And so she asked us if we could come and deliver lunch for her and her son to eat. And that really sort of, just the light bulb went on. We're like, this is going to be our first sort of initial program. And we formalized a program around being sort of this outpatient treatment day meal program. Mm-hmm. And so now we're able to drop off not only a meal, for her and her son, we were able to bring one for anyone else that would need it in their treatment center. And so that's really the hub of where everybody starts in our program. Is we make sure that when you are coming in for your cancer treatments, going in for a 4 to 12 hour day of chemotherapy, you do not have to worry about food. You can pre-order everything with us. You can trust that it's from these great local restaurants, and we only partner with restaurants that we trust are going to provide a really great meal for our families. And my team picks everything up. We know the ins and outs of the hospital, and so we are able to make sure that each patient gets the meal that they've ordered. And then alongside their whole sort of through their first day of treatment until their last, our team is just on the phone, checking in, seeing how they're doing, making sure that they get their meal ordered. For us, we just know that food is not top of mind. Right. And so it is top of mind for us. And so that's really the focus of our team, is just stepping in with that care and support, knowing that you have someone that's thinking about you. You've got someone that, is really there supporting you. I know last year, I met a woman named Rhonda, and she told me that she was in a really dark place with her treatment, and she just everything going on in her life, and she was just not sure why she was still fighting. And she said, you guys found me walking through the hospital in tears. You offered me this meal, and then you supported me and cared for me through this whole time. And she was just like, I've never received such nurturing in my entire life. And I mean, she just looked at me and said, like, you are the reason that I'm still standing. And so it just,
that's the other video on your website, is her. And I had that was a tearjerker. That was so beautiful.
It's just hearing those words.
And she had just moved here. Like, it seemed like she was in a transition in her life, so she didn't have any support.
Yeah.
And you guys stepped in and became a friend.
Yeah. And that is what we ultimately become for so many of our families, is we are the friend that is with you that you don't feel guilty about asking for help from, or just something that gives you still like dignity and control, but you know that you have this resource that you can go to. And like our entire job is to serve you and make sure that you have the food that you need and the support that you need. And we're continuing to grow what that support looks like. And if we can activate additional resources, or just, we're constantly learning what our patients need and how to really nourish them from the inside out. So
I wouldn't have known that either, that there was no food provided when you're there for 12 hours. That seems not right from an insurance standpoint. Like, I think that at least feed them. And I know you've mentioned there's so many complexities to the issues out there.
No, there's definitely a lot of things. And that's where we were, you kind of have to pick a focal point, like where's our place in this world and in the cancer space. And we've learned so much along the way, but one of those things that we've learned was that 1 in 5 cancer deaths every year are a direct consequence of malnutrition. And, we started doing a deep dive of what does that mean? What does that look like? And, it is due to this wasting syndrome. And, I'm not a doctor, so I can't fully talk about it. But what I've read and what I've learned is that, there is a lot of challenges related to food, whether it's loss of appetite or just, depression leads to anorexia. And so there's a lot of things getting in a patient's way to enjoy food and actually consume the calories that they need. And then it kind of, continues to snowball from there. And so that's really sort of where we want to step in and help, is just if we can reach patients before, anything starts, or before they, don't have that appetite, or just reinvigorate their palates in some way, and just help them get more joy from food.
Right. And you got to imagine the joy helps with the healing too. And I'm sure some of them are, moms coming home and then they have to have the 12-hour treatment and then go home and make dinner for their families. So is that part of what your care would be, is say they have 3 kids at home, would they go home with the 3 Maggiano spaghettis, or would that be part of it?
Right now it is just like treatment day lunch. So it's for the patient, any of their caregivers that are with them in the hospital. And that's one of the, now we're 10 years in and we've delivered over 30,000 meals. And so now we kind of get to put on our, thank you.
Huge. That's awesome.
It's definitely a huge milestone. I mean, even to be at 10 years, when we first started, a lot of people were quick to say, oh, call me in 3, call me in 5. So now we're calling you, we're 10 years in, we're still here and growing. So, but we've been really trying to stay as focused as we can. And I think that's something that, our board is really good at helping me with, and just advisors that I have, is just like pick one thing and be really good at it.
I think that's great
And
advice.
so right now, the knowing that there's so many treatment centers that just don't offer this program at all, and that there's patients going in and, going hungry on this day that is just filled with anxiety already. And usually from some of our patients, most of what we hear is that they actually feel their best on their chemo day. And so that is when you can capture them like getting excited and consuming calories. And so, once they go into chemo, that next week to 2 weeks, they feel really bad. And so they're not eating properly through those next 2 weeks.
But hitting them on the day that they're going to eat.
Yeah, exactly. And it reinvigorates, our patients will tell us all the time that they had no appetite and they were potentially not going to use our program. And we just encourage them, just try a meal. It's free. So you have nothing to lose. Just give it a taste. And then, they'll email us back or call us and say, 95% of my plate is gone. I've joined the Clean Plate Club. This is shocking. And now they're eating throughout just their treatment. It just invigorates their appetite again. So it makes a huge difference.
I think you should be so proud of yourself, of all the impact that you've made.
Thank you. There's always a lot to do. And the home front is something that is constantly on the back of my mind. We know that our patients need it. And so it is just, we're getting there.
It's just a matter of when.
Exactly.
Can't do it all at once. So what are some of the challenges that you've had to overcome?
I think there's a lot of challenges, just like technicalities and different things that you go through with sort of just growing a business. But I think just like the sort of persistent challenge for me has just been overcoming self-doubt and just having the courage to keep moving forward. And, that's still something that I'm not perfect at. I've definitely come a long way. And
I don't know if we
have these milestones that help you're like, okay, I've done this. It's not totally new, but you're just constantly tackling something new. And so it is just this constant, am I doing it right? And, letting go of the perfectionism. That's been a huge thing for me and my team this year. Is just like my constant sort of motto has just been like action over perfection. We just need to tell people what we're doing. It's never going to be perfect. And even if we think it's perfect, do they think it's perfect? And so there just is where I've been a huge perfectionist with our programming for years. And so I was really, really focused on making sure that our patients would have the best experience possible. And now we're really sort of focusing on what does that look like as an organization holistically, and how can we make sure all of our supporters and partners are having like an equally amazing experience with our organization. But yeah, the self-doubt is definitely something that's been a persistent challenge.
When you figure it out, let me know.
I will. I think it truly is.
I think you just have to walk through it. I don't know. It's obviously, even doing this is way out of my comfort zone, and sometimes we just have to do it. And
yeah, I think that's definitely what I've learned. And I've surrounded myself with people that just say you just need to put it on the schedule and you need to do it, and they hold me accountable. And so just getting started delivering our first meal, it's like you just have to do it.
That first meal story, share that one.
Yeah, it's been a big one. With our 10th anniversary, we delivered our very first meal in March of 2013. And, at the time, talk about self-doubt. I just had no idea what I was doing or if it would even make a difference in anyone's life. And we had flyers that we had distributed to different cancer organizations. And so we were just kind of sitting ducks, like waiting to see who's going to request. Yeah. And this woman, Lee, she ended up being our first person to submit just a request for a meal. And, I feel bad for her. At the time, we were not tech savvy in any way. So you had to print out you had to print out your form, scan it, email it back to us, and then we would send you a new form, like the menu, and then you had to pick what you wanted and then scan that and email it back to us. And so it was not as high tech as we are now, but she went through all this work to get this one meal, and we picked it up, delivered it to her during our lunch break, and luckily had the photographer with me that was able to come. And I remember just kind of feeling like, okay, like that was it. Did we make a difference? Like what's next? And I emailed her just to say, how was everything? How was your meal? Just want to check in on your experience. And she ended up writing a 4-page letter. And wow. I was blown away. A lot of it talked just about how she had just moved to the city. She didn't know anyone here, which is a very common sort of story that we hear. She had no community support. And a few things that deeply resonated with me in her letter was talking about how going to the grocery store only exacerbated her feelings of loneliness, because everything is made for families and large groups. She was like, there's nowhere that I can go that I can feel like I'm getting a meal for one. And, everything is packages and it's for families. And so she really struggled with that. And so she wasn't cooking a lot at home because it just made her feel more lonely. And it's supposed to be this shared experience. And then she talked about hearing about Culinary Care and how her mouth started to salivate, and just the idea of getting this restaurant prepared meal, and it was going to be brought to her with all this care. And then she just ended the letter by just saying, like, you've not only nourish me physically, but you've restored my faith in human kindness. And it was just this huge, incredible moment where I'm like, all right, we're on to something.
More like, I don't know, I'm thinking like your 80-20, like that's like the 80 part.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's crazy.
And that definitely is what, all the self-doubt, just anything that you're struggling with. I think that's, a lot of people try to find their purpose and their why. And, those moments are just instantly what I remind my team of. Like, all of the work that we do is to make sure that this is how people can feel in the world, and that we're restoring their faith in human kindness.
Talk about some of your other metrics as far as like on that care side.
Yeah. On the care side, we definitely track all of like the number of meals we've delivered, the number of families that we're serving. But then we also just tried to keep track of, what are the sort of emotional values that we're bringing to you. And so we just ask our patients, at the end of when they receive a meal, when they are finished with our program and they're done with treatment, how did this impact you? And you can just, choose, all the different sort of emotions that you felt through our program. And so 98% of our patients, feel that we created a bigger sense of community for them and that they actually had a sense of community. And so that was a really big one that we started seeing. And especially now, I think the US Surgeon General just announced that loneliness is an epidemic. And so knowing that, almost 100% of our patients are saying that we bring them a sense of community, that's not just nice to have care, that is actually essential treatment outcome improving care. Just to know that if you have feelings of loneliness and isolation, what I was reading about was that it does prevent you from going to your treatments. It prevents you from adhering to them. It sort of like Rhonda's story, it just makes you question, what am I even fighting for? And so knowing that we can impact our patients in that way is just such a huge statistic for us. And then we also just ask them about, did we increase your feelings of hope? And so just knowing that, we're in the, 90% across the board on just reducing stress, instilling hope, and bringing a sense of community to them. We're 95 to 98% across the board for all of that. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And 100,000 minutes of care calls. That one jumped out at me. I'm like, that's a lot of phone calls, but what a difference that must make.
It's a lot of phone calls, and you call someone to check in on their meal. Yeah. And I think food definitely helps build trust. And so that is something that...
And then they'll tell you everything that's
exactly.
going on.
And so that's where the care is constantly growing, is, our team is constantly taking notes of, this person mentioned they need transportation, and we've connected them to social workers. And we really just want to be an extension of, it's hard to take in information.
A resource for them.
Yeah. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of resources. It's hard to absorb it. Yeah. And even for our program, usually we'll get like a welcome kit or something from the hospital to let you know about all of the resources available to you. And it's hard to digest all of that in one sitting, and you don't even know what you need yet. Right. And so a lot of what we do is try to make sure that, during every meal we can help them, bring awareness to something that might change their life in the same way our meals do.
So what do you see what's next for the next 10 years of Culinary Care?
Yeah. Right now I'm planning for the next 5.
Good.
Yeah. I've tried to take a step back and really just focus in. So over the next 5 years, our hope is to be in 5 cities. And so just expanding our impact and our reach. And we get requests. I mean, since the day we launched our website, we have been getting individuals that, whether it's a social worker, their doctor, or just someone who's saying, my friend could use this, my mom could use this, I could use this program. And so just seeing the immense need out there, just making sure that families have that support. So,
could you franchise it in a way or license it?
Yeah, we're figuring out that model right now. Our next stop will be Dallas. So we're growing down there. So that's going to be an exciting, hopefully 2024.
And that'll be like a practice in a way. I mean, I think if you get one other city, then you'll be able to figure out the model.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and we've learned along the way, as much as we've modeled out everything, and, we had business plans and we've done all these big things. Like nothing teaches you more than just getting in there and doing it. And you learn and you grow and you just take the action, and it's just one foot in front of the other. And you learn so much along the way. I remember watching Shark Tank, and I think it was Barbara Cochran that said that. She's like, business plans are
right.
Yeah.
I got to say, I know my team has loved participating in the Culinary Care, the cook-offs. They love it. I'm a horrible cook and I haven't done these, but you sent a thank you video that was awesome.
Oh, good. I'm glad people watched it.
I loved it. I'm like, this is a beautiful touch. And it was personalized, and that was really nice. I think keep doing those. That was a very good touch. And on that note, so how can listeners support you and find you and volunteer, whatever? What do you need?
The most meaningful way people can support us right now is join our monthly giving community. It's called The Line because we work with local restaurants. And if you've been in a kitchen before, you know that there is a team of people on the line doing each of their own parts and just kind of doing their own thing, but collectively making a meal. And so that was really the inspiration behind this monthly giving community is we need individuals that are standing with us just month in and month out. Treatment is not a one and done thing. And so knowing that we have a whole community that's behind us, just supporting our patients just every single month makes a world of difference to the organization. It helps us plan and grow. And even if it's not to Culinary Care, if you have a charity that you support, I encourage just be a monthly giver. It will change their life.
It's really good advice. I'm on the board of Female Strong, and we struggle with the same thing. It's like knowing what's going to be there in order to plan what you're doing. It's very good advice.
It's definitely something we've learned.
It's almost easier than you don't have to think about it. Just pick a number.
It is, yeah. I mean, our monthly givers love it, and they talk about that. It's just like it's just everything is subscription based nowadays. You know, you subscribe to your Netflixes and your Hulus and just like all your content nowadays. And so I think, you know, to me, this is the one subscription that you can have that will not only change your life, but somebody else's too. And so it can be as little as $10 a month. Our average monthly giver is at $35. And so it just makes a world of difference and really helps organizations grow. The other thing that you can do too is if you're local to Chicago, we have our gala coming up on November 9th. So we call it our Gourmand Gala. We have, 35 chef stations that are there, like 3 to 4 are Michelin-starred restaurants. So some incredible chef partners, incredible restaurants. We promise that you will dine well. And it's got, we have casino tables. And so it's just like this really fun community building, interactive. Everyone in the room just is there to make a difference and meet new people and just
really
be surrounded
fun.
by
And you wander around and just try all the different restaurants. That sounds really fun.
If people have decided like, can we get a bento box of different so we can collect them all? And it's a lot of food. No one leaves our events hungry. And so it is something that, we really put a lot of focus and attention to is making sure that you have an amazing meal. This year it will be at Union Station. So cool. We get to be in one big room together. So you can see just like last year we were sold out with people literally knocking on the door the morning of at 500 people. So this year we're excited to welcome a much larger audience and really have this kick off the next 5 years, next decade of impact. So that's what we'll be celebrating at the gala, and it will be a really meaningful experience and a lot of fun. Yeah.
I think I might be able to get a few people to get there. That sounds really good.
It's a lot of fun.
So Courtney, do you have any advice for anyone that would want to start their own nonprofit?
Yeah, I think my biggest piece of advice would be focus on one person, helping one person at a time, and just keep helping one more person and one more person, because it can get really overwhelming trying to solve these really big challenges. Like no nonprofit that I know of is trying to do something small.
Right.
We all have these huge missions and are trying to change people's lives in these really significant ways. And I think
almost daunting then, right?
It can be, yeah. It can feel like, how am I ever going to solve this? How am I ever going to tackle this? Mm-hmm. And I think really starting off with just one person at a time and just letting that snowball, and just staying focused on what that mission is and serving your people in the best way that you can and making sure that you give them the attention that they deserve. And I think that also includes donors as well. Really sort of focus in. I think that's something that, we're really, really focused on now. And I wish that I had been more focused on just really genuinely bringing every single person into our community and thanking them in the way that they should have. And, I was a one-woman team for a long time. And so I'm like, I can't do it all. Right. But that is something that I do wish I had focused more on, was just really having our donors know that when you supported us, in 2013, 2014, 2015, you are the reason that we're still standing here today. Like those small, whether it's a small or large donation, like it gives us hope.
That was reminding me of something else that I was reading that I thought was interesting and I've been there, but tapped on the head and, this is a cute idea, honey.
Yes.
Yeah. Like you were alluding to, call us in 3 years. That must have been hard.
It definitely is challenging when you're trying to solve this this big thing, and people they would look at me, and I was 23 years old, and it was nice to say, like, you're doing this cute project.
Right.
And I'm sitting here trying to, change someone's life and make this huge impact. And there's definitely a lot that will come your way.
It's, like, oh yeah.
Like, that's
good
cute.
luck. Yeah.
But someone started
I'm so
somewhere.
Glad you made it through that.
No huge the organizations we see and support today that are large, like, they started somewhere.
Exactly.
They didn't just pop up 50 years later as these gigantic organizations. So, I think they're definitely an inspiration, and keep the right people around you, because there are people that will, there's people that will disagree with you, and you can have these authentic and genuine sort of conversations. You want people that will challenge you, but you don't want people that are just completely misaligned with your values. And, we've had to navigate that, through the years. It's just making sure that we're surrounding ourselves with the right people.
And it sounds like, also kind of back to the advice on the starting a not-for-profit, that your advisory team or your board has been really helpful for you. And I think, and having a good board sounds like it would be good for, to spend the time on that. Was it hard to get that board together?
We've definitely gone through, like, growth transitions with it. But we've always tried to keep it, as a growing organization, we've tried to keep it small, and just making sure that we have people that really believe in the cause. And, when you're starting off, if you're applying for your 501c3, you have to have a board of directors. Mm-hmm. And so starting off was definitely challenging, because you're making this whole list. And one of the pieces of advice that I got is, don't have family members on the board.
Good advice.
Yes. Yeah. You do not want to get into any fights or challenges. And, that leads to some awkward family dinners, apparently. So that is something to think about if you're getting, started in the weeds right now. You do have to start with your board of directors and really just kind of make a list. And then, as we met with people, and just if they were just so aligned with our mission, or they had been advising me for years, we invited them to come be on the board. It's like, you have been a dedicated partner of ours for years now, and continue to show up and challenge me, and just say the right things at the right moment when I need it, and just give me the right guidance. So it makes a huge difference.
Okay. Well, I think we're up for the last question, which you probably know. And it feels almost silly to ask you this, because I already kind of know it. But what is the legacy that you would like to leave behind?
I'm kind of leaving one behind for my dad, in a way. And so I think for me, just being able to talk about him consistently, and leave his legacy of what he really instilled in me, which is just making sure that you spend time with your loved ones, and having that quality moment together. If people can enjoy their meals, but also just kindness, that is really what inspired Culinary Care. You do not know how something will change someone's life. And for our friends and family, I know when they were delivering meals to us, they said, in their mind, and to us directly, like, it's the least we can do. Well, the least they could do changed my life so profoundly that 10 years later, I'm starting this organization. And so I think that, the legacy that I hope to leave is not only changing the way that, families are fighting cancer and easing the burden for them, but really just, instilling in people that it just takes, like, one small act of kindness. And you might not see it. It's not every day that, we get to see our patients' smiling faces and things. You just have to know it in your soul that it makes a difference.
Yeah.
So,
and not knowing that the loneliness aspect, you don't really know what everyone's going through, and that they might not have anyone around them like that.
Yeah. And it definitely, we deal with people in, like, the most challenging part of their day. And I have to tell my team that. I tell volunteers that you are coming and you are delivering meals to someone during a really challenging time of their life. They might not be jumping for joy to see you. You just have to know that you have changed their life.
Your hiring is difficult in that way, because you have to have people that have good bedside manner and are very gentle and patient. And
our program interview process is lengthy.
I would imagine. And it's a unique individual.
It's definitely the most, I think they are the most compassionate, friendly people that I've met. And we can sort of track and monitor how they're doing. And every every patient, they're able to say, the friendliness scale is is high, and people genuinely appreciate how our team is able to react and navigate and ask the right questions
and be authentic. I'm sure, I mean, it has to be very human.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It's really been a pleasure, and I'm really proud of you and impressed with what you've accomplished. So keep going.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being on this road with us.
Yes.
So.